Dharmapala, Anagarika Dharmapala, nearly 100 years ago, I think. A very rich family from Sri Lanka. So he has transferred the whole property and made a trust fund to support the Mahabodhi Society in India. Then went to India and started his mission there. For nearly 700 years, although Buddhism was originated there, those who were there never knew actually those ruins and buildings belong to which religion. The name of Buddhism completely disappeared. And Hindus have occupied all those places of worship by knowing they are religious places, sacred places. And they started their work, and some Muslims also, during Muslim occupation, occupied certain areas. So when Dharmapala went to India, Buddhagaya, the place where the Buddha gained his enlightenment, the shrine room still remained. Nobody destroyed the image and the shrine room. But Mahanta, the chieftain, the Hindu leader there, completely occupied and controlled this place as his temple, his property, and performed Hindu rites and rituals. Buddhist pilgrims also visit from India, the Sri Lanka, Burma, Thailand and some other countries, knowing that this is a sacred place. So this Dhammapala had a very big battle with the government, British government at that time. Then as a court case, he claimed, asking the government to hand over this to Buddhist community. In fact, Dharmapala was beaten by gangsters to chase him away from that area, but he did not give up. Finally, the government formed a committee, management committee, and that chieftain Mahanta also there in that committee. So finally, in 1950, I think, after my coming from India, that committee also cancelled and given the full authority only to Buddhist community. Now the Buddhagaya temple is run by the Buddhist community, not by Hindus or Brahmins or Mahanta. And the other places also, during Mr. Nehru, Prime Minister, he has done tremendous service to Buddhism. In fact, some people say, after Emperor Asoka, no one has done so much for Buddhism, Mr. Nehru. And he provided electricity, water, transport, road to all those sacred places. Earlier, no such facility. Then erected rest houses for the pilgrims to stay there. After they are independent, Nehru wanted to introduce the Asoka pillar, lion's head, as the crest of the government. See, all the others objected. Brahmin, even Gandhi also objected. Then Nehru said, you must understand, the whole world respects India because of two persons, not because of others, the Buddha and Emperor Asoka. We have to respect our own culture. This is not Buddhism, this is our own culture. We have to respect. Then others have to keep quiet. Then the Indian flag. Gandhi wanted to introduce his, Nehru said no. There is no cultural value there, historical value. We had to introduce something which people can appreciate, where they can find their cultural value. Then he introduced Dhammacakkavartin. Then people say it is a symbol of Buddhism, not Hinduism. I am not going to introduce either Hinduism or Buddhism. I told you this is our culture. Dhammacakra, introduced by the emperor of this country. So they accepted Dhammacakra. Then the day when they declared open the parliament after their independence, Nehru has arranged huge Buddha image, the background, huge one. Then, in his book, what he has written, when you read Discovery of India, Glimpse of World History, and many others, what he has written about the Buddha, Asoka, Buddhist culture, Buddhist philosophy, he says, Buddhism is Buddhism, Hinduism is Hinduism. All the others say Buddhism is a branch of Hinduism. Everybody says. Nehru says Buddhism is Buddhism, Hinduism is Hinduism. Hinduism is not Buddhism, Buddhism is not Hinduism. You can see this in his book. Then he says, when we study the Buddha's way of preaching, I really cannot understand. Now he is using layman's language. I really cannot understand what sort of courage and knowledge and understanding the Buddha had to point out many of those existing superstitious belief traditions that people maintain in our country for thousands of years, established in various religious groups, cult and creed as their way of life. The Buddha directly pointed out, in these practices, we cannot find any religious value, religious significance. An ordinary man cannot revolutionize, change or existing belief and traditions and way of life. The Buddha had done this. Nobody else. Now you can understand this very well when you refer to his way of life, the Buddha. What sort of a teacher? This is about 2,500 years ago, not in the modern society. Few examples. A man who wanted to start a business was waiting for an auspicious time, according to astrologers. He had to wait for 2-3 months to start his business, one particular business. During this period, another man started the same business, he lost it. When the Buddha came to know about this incident, he said, Attho atthassa nakkhattang kinkari santi taraka. Nakkhattang patimanentang attho balam pettika. Only foolish people depend on stars and planets and astrology to start the good work. When the man is dynamic, forceful, energetic, if man can understand what to do, that is the most auspicious time to start work. Can you imagine this kind of saying, so that without depending on external forces, astrology or planet or star? He says, Kinkari Santi Taraka star. What these stars can do for us? Why do you want to depend on them to start your work? Again, people always go and take holy baths in holy river to wash away all their sins committed by them during their lifetime. Then the Buddha said, yes, you go there occasionally to wash away your sins. In that case, those fishes and turtles who are living in the water no more sin, because every day they wash away their sins. This is how we ridicule this kind of belief, what they had for thousands of years. Again, another person who wanted to observe precept, 8 precepts, came and asked the Buddha, when is the Uposatha day, the full moon day, to observe 8 precepts? Then the Buddha said, when the mind is ready, when the mind is pure, that is the full moon day for anybody to observe 8 precepts. See, his way of interpretation for all those traditional beliefs. So when you study his way of life, here Nehru says, I really cannot understand what sort of courage he had to say like this. Then the belief, he says, those who want to go to heaven after they are dead, they go on praying and praying and praying and worshipping to go to heaven. Then he says, to me, look like this. A man who wanted to cross a river, there's no boat. Instead of making a raft or finding something to cross the river, he kneel down and pray and worship and asking the other bank of the river to come here to take him. All those who pray to go to heaven is exactly like this. Now see how he ridiculed this also. Again he says, those who aim that heaven is above and pray and prepare for that is like a man who built a ladder to climb the heaven not knowing where it is. So everything that existing belief he did not accept and pointed out what to do, how to get rid of this traditional belief. So Nehru has written a lot about the Buddha and Buddhism, Emperor Asoka. One day, one of his friends came and asked, you have done so much for Buddhism. In fact, you have not done anything for Hinduism, your own religion. Because he was a Brahmin, was born in a Brahmin family. But so far, you have not announced that you are a Buddhist. Then Mr. Nehru said, I have done so much. I have written so much. I have spoken so much. When he went to the United Nations as Prime Minister of India, he started his preaching, his talk. Nahi verena verani sammanti the buddhajanam averena sammanti esa dhammo sanantano. The Buddha says, hatred never ends. Why hatred? But by loving kindness. Esa dhammo sanantano. This is an eternal dhamma. There is nobody who can change it. He started his talk giving quotation from the Buddha. Again he says, in the modern scientific age, for our survival or destruction, there are two things. If we want to survive, there is no other choice. We have to turn toward the Buddha, what the Buddha has said. If not, if we want to disappear from this earth for our destruction, turn toward scientific discoveries. In the end, there is no survival, utter destruction. So always we give due credit and place to the Buddha and his teaching. So for these questions, how he answered? He said, I have done so much, I have written so much, I have spoken so much. Then people can understand my attitude. Is it not a shameful thing for me to announce that I am a Buddhist? What is the big idea of announcing that I am a Buddhist? They can understand. So, they are great people. He has written. People regard us as great people. Actually, we are not great people. We are ordinary people who deal with great problems. Therefore, people regard us as great people. So one day when I mentioned this in one of my talks, at that time, Musahitan was the Deputy Prime Minister. Immediately he took out his diary and recorded this one. This is very good saying for politicians. So, the revival of Buddhism in India actually started through Anagarika Dharmapala. If he has not gone to India, that situation still remained like this. He had to fight with those people, there were court cases, bloodshed, but he did not give up. In the end he got. He won the battle. He erected temples, Mahabodhi Society, branches everywhere, invited monks and started hospitals, schools, orphanages and libraries. Then when he went to America to attend a World Religious Conference in, I think, more than 75 years ago, not recently, in Hawaii, she met an American lady, Madame Foster. By knowing that Anagarika Dharmapala is a very energetic, very enthusiastic and honest man, she told him, I got property and I do not know what to do with my property. I do not know how to make use of my property. So I am going to hand over my property for your noble work. And with her money, he started all the Buddhist centers, Calcutta, Benares, Madras and Lucknow, New Delhi, and hospitals, orphanages, schools, libraries. See, when a person works honestly, that is the virtues, the power of honesty, naturally people come forward. The power of honesty. So he had no difficulty to start. So I think next year they are going to complete 100 years, going to celebrate in India, Mahabodhi Society. When he was studying in a missionary school during the colonial period in Sri Lanka, one full moon day he did not go to school. So next day when he went to school, the teacher asked why you did not come to school. So there was a punishment for those who did not come to school without giving any reason. So he said, yesterday was a full moon day. I went to a temple and took 8 precepts, stayed in the temple to practice my religion. He was fined 25 cents. Remember, 25 cents is bigger than $100 at that time. 25 cents he had to pay for observing 8 precepts in the temple on full moon day. He was very young at that time. He said that is the very day he implanted this idea in his mind. I must work to gain our lost independent freedom to practice our religion. He started his mission. And the whole family dedicated. And another brother, Dr. Eva Vitara, his younger brother, he started Tripitaka, printing Pali Tripitaka. No one has started earlier. He contributed everything in Romanized as well as Sinhalese character, Pali language, printing Tripitaka and commentaries. After that, distributed. Then Professor Maurice David, he was a British government agent, I think, in Sri Lanka at that time. He was a very intelligent young man, the son of a Christian priest in England. When he was there, he thought to study Pali language. There was only one Buddhist monk in the whole country at that time who studied English, who knew English. So he studied Pali under this reverend, studied properly, mastered the language. His wife also joined, very intelligent lady, both of them. He said, the main purpose of studying this Pali language is to know what Buddhism is. By reading translation, I cannot understand it. I don't trust. Then I can point out the loopholes and weaknesses of Buddhism to show the superiority of Christianity. He said, the purpose of studying Pali language. Study, then gone back to England, then started Pali Text Society. Also completed 100 years. Then his wife also supported him. Went on translating Pali into English. All the modern Tripitaka translations come from there, Pali Text Society. When he was very old, he has written, do you know why I want to study Pali language? To find out the weaknesses of Buddhism and to show the superiority of Christianity. Because his father is a Christian priest. But do you know what happened to me at the end? Without my knowledge, I have become a Buddhist. I never had the idea of becoming a Buddhist. But this teaching is very convincing. And I have full confidence. Then he said, only 2 items in Buddhism. I have read, studied every existing religion, but I had never come across 4 noble truths and 8 noble paths in any religion. Therefore, this is a noble religion. So I have full confidence. I never thought that I want to become a Buddhist, but automatically my confidence, my understanding converted my mind. I am a Buddhist now. So when he died, his wife continued. There are some books translated by her. That is how they started. All these work at that time started from Sri Lanka because they were English education was very advanced during the colonial period. Although monks did not study, but the laymen. So in the whole Southeast Asia, in Sri Lanka, they studied English language. That is why they have this missionary zeal in Sri Lanka. You cannot find this in other countries. Go to Burma, Thailand or any other country, they have no that missionary zeal. We want to introduce this religion, we want to preach, we want to enlighten others, we want to impart this knowledge to others. That idea is very, very poor in others' mind. But in that country, because of the Christian missionaries, they have influenced the Buddhists. So that is why they started this nearly 100 years ago. So, later, in 1956, Dr. Ambedkar, so-called leader of low caste group in India, because they were discriminated by the Brahmins and high caste people. So he decided to keep away from Hinduism, because Hinduism never support them, to get rid of this problem. Because directly it is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, one of their well-known Hindu texts. Chatur Varnan Maya Dristan Guna Karma Vibhagasa. In Sanskrit. God says, Krishna says, there are 4 castes: Kshatriya, Brahmana, Vaishya, Shudra, created by God. That means Hinduism directly supports this caste system to maintain. Actually, what happened? Brahmins have composed these slokas or stanzas and put in the God's mouth and taken back and introduced, this is the sayings of God, just like what other religions say, this is given by God. And some Buddhists also say, this is in Buddhism, the Buddha says like this. The Buddha never said such thing when you study. So, Brahmin, high class, people were created from the Brahma's mouth. They come out from the mouth. Forever, they remain eternal teachers, masters of the country. Everybody must respect. They are so holy. The food prepared by women, touched by women, they never eat. Impure, but they are married people. That cannot understand what sort of holiness is there. I was with them, so I know very well. They never eat food prepared or touched by women. And the other low caste people also. This is the way how they discriminate. So, next one, Kshatriya, Khatriya, Sakya. The Buddha was born in that caste, but not in high caste Brahmin. That is why Brahmins were not ready to accept the Buddha's teaching. He said, he belongs to low caste, the Buddha, not the Brahmin. Therefore we cannot accept his teaching. So one of the Brahmins, Kumarila Bhatta in Bengal, has said, we know the Buddha's teaching is very good, but to us, his teaching is just like pure milk in dog skin's bottle. The vessel made out of dog skin. Milk is pure and good, but the dog skin is very dirty. Therefore we cannot drink. So we cannot accept the Buddha's teaching. See the way how they discriminated. So Kshatriya was created by God from shoulders here to fight, to protect, to rule. So the Buddha, all the rulers, kings, ministers belong to this group. So the Buddha has chosen Kshatriya, not Brahman. You know, before his coming to this world, to become a Buddha, He was in Tusita ever, previous birth. From there, wherever it is, he watched very carefully whether the time is suitable. If the time is not suitable, the Buddhas never appear, no use, because people are not ready to listen. He observed 5 things: Kalam, Desam, Deepancha, Kulam, Mata. These 5 things. By studying very carefully, then decided now the time is ready. He observed 5 things: Kalam, Desam, Deepancha, Kulam, Mata. These 5 things. By studying very carefully, then decided now the time is ready for me to appear, to become a human being, because a Deva or Brahma or God cannot become a Buddha. They cannot gain enlightenment. Impossible. Their mentality, their mind is such. They have all sorts of worldly powers, miraculous power, supernatural power, all these are worldly powers, but no enlightenment. Only human mind can develop that mind up to that maximum level. Only a man or human being can become a Buddha. So he had to become a human being. Then observe those 5. What are those 5? Kala, time. Whether the time is suitable, whether people can understand, whether they are going to listen. Then he knew, although many people are not ready, at least few can understand. Pay attention. After becoming the Buddha, immediately after gaining enlightenment, when he used the enlightenment or simple language, his psychic power to understand others' mentality, way of thinking, he knew. Their minds were deluded, misled, maintained misconceptions, wrong ideas. So very difficult for them to grasp, to accept this teaching. You see, they are blindfolded. There are dust around their eyes and the mind. They cannot see things properly. So can they understand what I am going to reveal? That is why the time is very important. Even then, after becoming a Buddha, there were so many dialogue, debate, heated argument, discussion. That is why Buddhism, Buddhist doctrine, Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist psychology are very rich. You can compare with all the other existing religions. So rich. Reason. He had to argue, discuss with other religious teachers. They are also well-educated philosophers, thinkers, psychologists. They came to argue, challenge. So he had to dig out the deep aspect of philosophy and psychology to explain. When you read one particular discourse, which is called Anatta Lakkana Sutta, Anatta, no soul, soulless doctrine, all the other religions in India at that time accepted there is an eternal soul created by God. The Buddha says there is no such thing, it is only imagination, misconception. Since people do not know how to analyze and understand human consciousness, they have interpreted this as soul. Then came to argue. Those who believe, very strongly believe that there is such eternal soul. So when you read that particular discourse or the sutta, Anatta Lakkana Sutta, how the Buddha tried to enlighten, to tell them that it is a mere belief. He said, now you believe there is a soul. The Buddha asked where it is. Can you tell me where it is? He could not tell where it is. All right. Now we have 5 senses that we are using every day. Can you tell me that the soul is in one of these 5 senses? He said no. All right. We have 4 mental faculties in our mind. Our feeling, perception, and mental tendencies, consciousness. Can you tell me the soul is located in any of these mental faculties? No. We have 4 elements in our body: solidity, fluidity, heat, motion. Can you tell me the soul is located in one of these elements? He said no. Then where is this soul? The way how he refuted, rejected that belief. That is why his teaching is so rich, philosophically and doctrinally. There were so many arguments with the other religious teachers. That is why he wanted to see the time, whether this time is suitable. First thing. Then the second one is desa. Which direction, whether east or west. All the great religious teachers appeared in the east, but not in the west. But many of those scientists, scientific knowledge is a worldly knowledge. There is no spiritual development in scientific knowledge. And their understanding capacity also ended, means to an end in many of their discoveries, because some others find out so many other things later. Are still going on. Now let us take atomic energy. What they have discovered according to their nuclear science. They mention this thing, electron, neutron, proton, this and that. But now they have discovered so many new things in atom. In time to come, people discover many more new things. So they have not discovered everything. There is no absolute or final analysis or discovery in their teachings or knowledge. So, in the West, at that time, people were not ready. In fact, in many of those Western countries, people were not cultured 2,500 years ago. But in the East, they had cultured, they have discovered religion, philosophy, and so many things advanced, although they had lot of superstitious belief. That is why that the East is very important. So when he wanted to meditate, to gain his enlightenment, he sat down under the Bodhi tree. First, he sat down facing the west. When the book says there was an earthquake, shake, maybe around that area, he got up. He knew this is not the direction. So when he sat down facing the east, very quiet, calm, then he thought this is the direction, east. Because there is a belief, according to astrology, astrological calculation, that sun, how the sun influences, and certain planets influence the human mind, those who are in this particular direct area, in the east. In the west, the opening of their mind and thinking power differ, just like climates, through the influence of the planet. So when he was facing the east and started his meditation, he continued and gained enlightenment. So this direction is very important for certain things, how the planet influences the elements of the body. Then the country in the east, which country is suitable at that time? So he knew India is the best country to gain enlightenment, to preach the Dhamma, because some people are ready, but not in other part of the world. That is why he has chosen India. Of course, our textbook says all the previous Buddhas appeared in India, only in India. And all the future Buddhas also will appear only in India. But personally, I don't believe this. This is my personal belief. Those who have recorded this thing in the book, just to show. Because at the beginning, they started all these things in India. So who knows, one day may Buddha may appear in China or America. So therefore, we cannot say that. Why he has chosen Kshatriya without referring to Brahmana, the high caste family. As a Brahmin, when he started his mission, he knew there will be many who are not belong to Brahmins group, object. They do not accept his teaching, saying this is only Brahminism. So he did not accept it. Then, why? Now he wanted to talk against a caste system. Then why he was not chosen very low caste family? If he were born in one of the low caste family, people never respect him, never listen to him, never accept his teaching. So he cannot start his business. He avoids both. Then Kshatriya is the middle caste, chosen Kshatriya family. He was born in the Kshatriya family. His father, King Suddhodana. King Suddhodana was not an orthodox Hindu. When this baby, the Buddha, was few days, he invited some astrologers, very wise people, to his palace. And these Brahmins, they are Brahmins, suggested to baptize this child according to their Hindu tradition. King Suddhodana objected. He said no. That means he was not an orthodox Hindu or Brahmin. Then they studied the characteristics, the features, appearance, then predicted the future. Some says he will become a universal monarch, not ordinary ruler of a country. But only one person said no. He will never lead the worldly life as a ruler, but he will become the head of a religious mission, a teacher, or the Buddha. They have predicted according to their calculation. So he started his mission as a Kshatriya who was born in a ruler's family. And many of those rulers, kings, have become his followers. But he did not use the authority to bring people into Buddhism through those rulers or kings or the ministers. He never used that royal authority to influence people to become Buddhist. In fact, he visited those so-called low-caste people's family, beggars, scavengers. But the kings and the rulers and the ministers visited the Buddha. This is his way of life. For the sake of one poor man, he traveled hundreds of miles to enlighten that particular person. So, although he was born in a royal family, did not use authority to influence religion. Then, next one is mother. Mother is very important. Last one. He has chosen his own mother earlier. Conceived in the mother's womb. King Suddhodana and his queen Mahamaya had no children for many years. It seems, although it is not mentioned, I think the Buddha's father was about 40 years old when the Buddha was born. And this lady praying and worshipping and doing everything according to the instruction given by the teachers and the Brahmins and religious gurus. It's mentioned in one of the Sanskrit books what she has done. Mamarja tirthesu jajapa mantram tatana danani tapas chakara susrama dharmam sumano nisevya saputra heto saha dharma patnya. He had done so many things according to Indian tradition and belief at that time. Mamarja tirthesu has taken holy bath from every holy river to wash away the sins, to have a baby. Jajapa mantra. Usually people believe when they recite some mantras, they can get everything what they want, no need to work. They give a mantra, you go on reciting this one, you get everything what you want. So this belief is still there. Recently I got a letter from Australia, from local Chinese, saying, is it true that one group of Buddhists introducing a mantra and distributing, if we recite this mantra, all our sins will be washed away. Is it true? I got the letter with me. Can you imagine the mentality of our people to ask this kind of question, to ask, is it true? If there is such thing, we can do any dirty, wicked, cruel, immoral thing. After that, recite this. Finish. All your sins will be saved. Finish. So the Buddha's mother has recited all those mantras given by various people, but no issue. Tatana dana. Then people suggested, you must give dana to this religious group, that religious group, these beggars and these all sorts of people. He has given dana, charity, to different groups. No news. Tapas chakar. Observe so many precepts, vows, penalties, according to different religious belief. You know, certain vows made by some people in the name of religion to gain something. She has done, but no. Susrama Dharma. Whenever learned people, religious people, perform some religious rites and rituals and teaching, preaching, she attended to all those temple places of worship to attend to preaching of the Dharma. Sumano Nisevya. Some people say you must go and associate very closely with those holy people. The atmosphere can influence. So she associated with many of those so-called holy people, religious people. Saputra Heto, for the sake of a child. But he is still watching. Yes. When he comes to know this lady, the mother must be perfect lady, physically, mentally, morally, otherwise not suitable for a Buddha to choose as his mother. Healthy mother, who maintain healthy mind, who maintain good qualities, virtues and principles. Then physical and mental, the formations of the mother influence the baby in the mother's womb. The way how a mother thinks, either cruelty or anger or jealousy or generosity or kindness or compassion, influence the baby. Even environment around that area also influence the baby. The modern psychology explains how the baby in the mother's womb experience this. So the mother is a very, very important person other than the father. So he has chosen suitable mother. This Mahamaya Devi is most virtuous, healthy, perfect mother. So these are the traditional beliefs maintained in India. But after gaining his enlightenment, he has revolutionized many of those existing religious beliefs, traditional, cultural and superstitious beliefs, and introduced very simple, refined, genuine, a noble way of life, but not a religion. It is a shameful thing for us to introduce this Buddha's teaching as a religion. When you define the word religion, what is religion? A noble way of life. That means by leading this way of life, we become harmless people to others. At the same time, we become noble according to our way of life. So when we lead this way of life, we serve others. How do we serve others? When we keep away from disturbing, hurting, accusing, robbing, misleading, bluffing, cheating, we serve others. That means we allow them to live peacefully. Not necessary to do anything for them. Allow them to live peacefully without disturbing. That is the highest service that we get. Not necessary to spend anything. Can we do that? We are willing to spend thousands of dollars but cannot keep quiet without disturbing. Now this is our religious way of life. Buddhism is such. Not necessary to perform many rites and rituals and ceremonies, even worshipping also not very important. For our own happiness, we worship. To us, that is very important. But Buddha was not interested. We like it very much. That is our way of life. So, when a man is honest, harmless, kind, he is a Buddhist. That label of Buddhism was not important. To him, that person is a Buddhist. Whether that person worship him or not makes no difference, immaterial to him. Do you know, when he was about to pass away, about to die, Ananda came and reported, Devas, come down with flowers to respect the Buddha, having heard that Buddha is going to pass away. And these trees around this area, this is not the season, but blooming, beautiful flowers around this area to respect the Buddha. Then the Buddha says, Ananda, that is not the correct way to respect a Buddha, by offering flowers. If there is anyone who can follow the advice given by me, by following such advices, they respect the Buddha, not by offering flowers. This is the Buddha's attitude. Can you imagine what sort of religious teacher we cannot imagine? His way of life, his attitude, his wisdom, his enlightenment, so simple. That is why, although he is not interested, we like to worship him. That one Russian philosopher has said, the more I love him, I have forgotten this. The more I love him, the more I forgot. Yes. The more I know him, the more I love him. The more I love him, the more I know him. A Russian philosopher. The more I know him, the more I love him. The more I love him, the more I know him. He's not a Buddhist. Because that is why he said to Vakkali, a disciple, a monk, who admired the features, beauties, complexions of the Buddha, Yo dhammam passati somam passati. One who sees the Dhamma, through that Dhamma you can see the Buddha. And that is what this Russian philosopher says. He has not seen the Buddha, but he loved. Why he loved? The more I know him, that is Dhamma taught by him. Through this Dhamma, he developed love. Love means his understanding. So, through his attitude, through his preaching, we can create a real Buddha. Not the image that people erect as real Buddha. This is imaginary expression. But real Buddha appear in our mind when you come to know, when you study. He says like this, his attitude is like this, his compassion is like this. Then the Buddha appears in our mind. That is what he says there. Then we gain real confidence and devotion and inspiration. I don't know how I started, what I am talking. What is it? Oh, Anagarika, that word has gone so far. The word Anagarika, then get to Dharmapala, then Sri Lanka, then India. Now I don't know what I talk. Anyway, it is very good, relaxed, for you to relax, you know. Ākāsattā Jalunnatthā Devānāgā Mahiddikkā Puññaṃ Taṃ Anumodittā चिरं रक्षन्तु लोकशासनं एतावता च अम्हेहि सम्पदं पुण्यसम्पदं सब्बे देवानुमोदन्तु सब्बसम्पत्तिसिद्ध्या देवो वसतु कालेन सस्य सम्पत्ति हेतु च भीतो भवतु लोको च राजा भवतु धम्मिको इदं वो दातेनं होतु सुखिता हन्तु ज्ञातयो इमिनः पुण्यकम्मेन मामे बालसमागमो सतं समागमो होतु यावनिर्वाणपत्त्या Selamat hari raya.